Only 100,000 people. Those 100,000 people may be different in many ways, but there's one thing that brings them all together. The Green Bay Packers. In Titletown, the blue-collar city only knows hard work, tailgating, championships, but more importantly, they know family.
We have a saying in this town: faith, family, and the Green Bay Packers are all that you need. Sanjay and I grew up in Green Bay. You could say that we are Green Bay, or even better, the voices of Green Bay. We bring a local feel of Packer fandom to a worldwide audience.
Friendship, family, and football.
Ladies and gentlemen,
This is the Freezer Podcast.
What is going on, everybody? We are here live. Freezer Podcast, baby. It's back. Sanjay is not with us, of course. Obviously, you just see the two handsome other gentlemen that are part of the show. That is myself, Fred Thurston, and Matthew, Mixmaster Matt. But we are live here. We are super excited. A couple things to just jump off right out of the gate. Sanjay working. We appreciate that. Two, how is it that literally we're on year 4 of the show and I'm still not involved in the intro? Still not involved in the video intro. It's a
ask Sanjay, dude. I told him. I said you need to get Fred over. You need to call up your boy at Mirrorless Productions, and I said book a 1-hour booth session. Get Fred in there, add him in there. But you can blame him. It's not me. That's his buddy. I just showed up that day. He needs to arrange that. So
he's
not here to defend himself, and that's fine.
Yeah, no, it's totally fine. The funny thing about it is Alex, who runs Mirrorless, one of the greatest film guys I know, good friend of mine as well. So I mean, everyone is to blame here. But number 3, shout out to UW hockey, number 1 in the nation, both men's and women's. I'm not gonna let that slide because that is super freaking cool. New coach,
hockey school,
new regime, and it's killing it. I'm a big hockey guy, so everybody knows that. Super excited about that. But here we are on what kind of cautiously feels like a victory Tuesday, but not a victory. So Matt, break us down a little bit about how you're feeling today, where you feel the state of the nation is right now with the Green Bay Packers.
I called the perfect loss for this season. Like you, not only did you protect your draft pick, which they definitely need, to add some talent here, but you had enough stops on defense, but you still did something really poorly to make the defensive coordinator still look bad and want people to get rid of him at the end of the year. So that was check number 2. And check number 3 was look competent on offense and leave people with some hope, which is what happened to me. That was probably the first time since maybe the Falcons game that I can recall kind of coming out of the game going, you know what? I feel pretty good about what I just saw. And that includes the Rams win, which at no point was I like, hey, this looks like a competent, offensive unit right now. But to their credit, man, they went on the road against a really tough Steelers team. Everybody knew that they were going to have a test there. They have a really good defensive line led by, TJ Watt, of course. Everybody, knows the story there. And then you got a lot of scrappy guys back in the secondary. So to see the Packers fight for the 4 quarters, get a lead at one point, complete some passes down the field, look like they were actually onto something, I thought was pretty refreshing. And they still ended up losing the game. We didn't have to have this win and curse it, in April when we're like, man, if we had just not won that game against the Steelers, we would have been picking 6 instead of 10, whatever the case is. So I thought this was the best case scenario for this year's version of the Packers, was play well enough to be in the game, look pretty good, but just don't pull out the W and live to see another day for the draft.
Yeah, what a weird kind of feeling to have, right? Like, I mean, weird. I looked back at today and I was kind of like, I didn't have that yucky, ugly, dark feeling that I normally have, like after some of these games where I'm like, yeah, we're just terrible. We're not going to do anything. We're not where we need to be as a team. It felt like there was some progression. There was some things to take out of that game that I do feel are worth talking about. However, a lot of the same mistakes that have been going on throughout the year have been kind of rearing their head every single week. Christian Watson obviously being a huge part of that. Jordan Love's, some of his throws being a huge part of it. Some defensive lines, some defensive calls, things like that. So, I mean, it's a very strange feeling because I want to I want to, I don't want to say bash the team necessarily, but I definitely want to, take it with a grain of salt, because I think that's how we've had to take this whole year, right? We've
Yeah.
always talked about this year being a year where we have to be a little bit more graceful, a little forgiving in the sense of what's going to happen. So, yeah, I mean, have we lost a game? Do you think that we've lost a game this year where we've just not even been close into it outside of the Detroit game? And I'm not going to allow the Detroit game for two reasons. One, short week. Two, probably the better team in the league. I'm not going to let that one, but short week. Is there one game that you think like, man, we just never even had a chance into being it? I mean, when you look at some of the box scores, you look even at this game, right? Like, we didn't win it, but we sure were close. There was opportunities again where we could have won the game. Just like I feel like last week, had we maybe converted some of those situations where we had red zone opportunities, we won that game. Now, I don't deserve to win them, but could we have?
Well, yeah, that's kind of the weird part about this year is like outside of the Lions game, like they never were really like totally out of any game they played in. Like, did they play really bad during the game and look miserably bad? Yes, they did. But all while that was going on, they were maybe only down 10 or 13 points. Like, they're never just getting slaughtered by somebody where you're like, oh my God, just get this game over with. I can't take it anymore. Like, at some point, they were in pretty much all of these games to some degree, and then they gave it up at the end, or whatever the case happened. So I don't think I have one outside of the Lions game. I mean, if you go down the line here, the Falcons game, they were looking great until the end, and then the opposite happened against the Saints. The Lions game, of course, happens, but then the Raiders game they were in, the Broncos game they were in, the Steelers game they were in, they beat the Rams, so it's like they weren't getting crushed. It's just like sort of when you don't watch the game and you kind of look back like, well, I don't know, maybe they weren't that bad, but the devil's in the details when you watch the team actually play, and you kind of during that 4-game losing streak, there was some ugly football going on, but it does look like they've learned some stuff. And although we lost to the Steelers, it kind of feels like a win. Like, I feel like they took a step forward. Like, they didn't get a win, but it felt like they advanced their cause a little bit. And it gives you something to look forward to next week. Cause now, like, I'm like, all right, you got the Chargers coming to town. Like, you got a really good offense on their end, to be a good test for our defense. I don't know how much I want to see that, but defensively, they have good pass rushers. They have some good guys in the secondary. So it'll be another test for our offense that I just think, just to see some more of what we saw would be nice. But yeah, to go back to what you said, I don't think that they've gotten crushed really outside of that Lions game. So to their credit, they've hung around enough.
Yeah. And I think with this game too, another, big kind of call out, shout out that I'll give them is I thought they did great against the defensive line of Pittsburgh. I thought they held TJ Watt really well. I thought, we all said last week going into the game, we thought he was going to have 5+ sacks.
I was terrified.
That was not really the case. I don't feel like he owned the game against us. I felt like he had a couple really great plays, but for the most part, I thought they did really good. So I don't want to go this whole entire show without giving them some credit, because I think that they played really, really well. For arguably probably one of the best offensive line games we've seen so far this season. And then also defensively, I feel like although we let up 23 points, I feel like our defense just continues to make the right plays and be in the right spots for the most part. And that's really kind of, I would say comforting maybe. And I don't know if that's the right word, because I don't know if I'm comforted by it, but I definitely feel like there is like, that's like the least of our worries, right? Like, we're kind of like, okay, our defense is kind of there. There's a few issues. There's obviously some injuries going on. Jair being out, Quay having some issues, Devondre having some early issues in the season and now coming back. The Kenny Clark situations, the Devontae. There's just been a lot of like nagging kind of injuries going on. So I don't think that they've ever really been at 100%. But for me to see them, and Kenny Pickett's no beauty, but to see him put up 126 yards, that's it, no touchdowns, no interceptions. That's something to be excited about, right? Because we all went into the game thinking, George Pickens, right? He's a stud, and Najee Harris is pretty decent. So I'm excited to see what they're doing defensively, and I think we can build on that. It was nice again also to see the offense kind of grow into that little thing that it is, and I think Jordan Love for the most part, had it not be for like the latter part of the fourth quarter, thought he had a pretty damn good football game.
Yeah, and I don't have an issue with his interceptions. Like they weren't like, oh, he didn't see the middle linebacker lurking over the
Yeah.
middle of the field, or, whatever the case was. Like he is trying to make plays, and that stuff's going to happen. So I don't fault him for it. But to go back to your point about the defense, the weird part about, I thought this game was the perfect, what they've kind of been the whole year is like they did get a lot of like situational stops during the game. They allowed us to go get the ball back and score and take the lead, but then they'll go back on the field and they'll let the opposing team go right down the field and get the lead back, which is what the Steelers did, which is what the Raiders did, and then on top of that, it's like you got steamrolled again in the run game. It's like the Steelers were averaging 90-ish yards a game on the ground, and they end up with 200 in the Packers. It's like, okay, that's plagued the team for what, 10 years? I mean, it feels like my entire life, to be honest with you. So if you're looking down the line here, like that's something again they're going to have to think about, not only as the season ends here, like what are you going to do to switch that up, but like going into 2024, it's like you guys got to figure out a way to stop the run a little bit, because teams are just controlling the line of scrimmage. They're controlling the time of possession that way. They're grinding down your defense. Maybe that's why there's so many injuries. These guys are on the field what feels like forever. Some of these drives end up being 10, 12, 15 plays long. So I'd like to see that get cleaned up a little bit. And that could be coaching, could be personal, both, probably both. But on the other side, I totally agree, Fred. I thought that, I mean, we all expected that TJ Watt was going to have a Max Crosby-like game and just be harassing everybody up and down the line, and nobody could kind of contain him. But other than maybe a couple of plays, I thought he was fairly quiet, and Green Bay did a really good job of either running away from him or having someone there to chip him, or just generally keeping him out of the play. So that felt like it was progress for Matt LaFleur and the offensive line. And, at this point, I'm just trying to find some type of continuity on that front five, get the same group of dudes up there and put some successful tape together in a couple of games where you're not just getting, blown up. So that felt like a win for the offense in that sense.
Yeah. And then what are your thoughts offensively, just as a whole, how we played? We obviously got Jones with, 10 plus touches again offensively on the run game. Didn't have a very successful day, right? I think 13 runs for, what have I got, 35 yards.
Yeah.
Very, very minuscule.
He had I thought it was his worst game of the season. Yeah. He just didn't look fully himself. I don't know if he was fully healthy or not, but he didn't run very effective. He had a hard time getting out of tackles or breaking them, and then he had some really crucial drops, 2 of those on third down. I think one of them was an easy screen pass that probably would have went for a touchdown. And another one just a flat out drop. So, this team doesn't have a lot of margin for error when you don't have as many, bona fide stud stars on your team. You got to have the ones that you do show up. And I thought that was a little bit disappointing for Jones. On the flip side, I've been dogging AJ Dillon all year long. He's had a couple of nice games in a row here. I need to call him out. I mean, he had a nice run this last game and is looks to be more in form. He's breaking tackles again. He looks more powerful, a little bit more explosive. So that's been really nice to see. And I guess I'm just waiting for someone in the wide receiver core, wide receiver 1, to step up. I kind of want to anoint Jaden Reed as that. I feel like if anybody right now has stepped up, he feels like he's been the one to, make a lot of these other plays. And apparently he's, guys are coming to him in the locker room when they're having meetings at his locker. So maybe there's something to that. But I think, again, want to see these guys step up. And Christian Watson's been taken on the chin this week, and, for better, for worse, right or wrong. But it's like, I just think he's playing too small. I don't know if it's a lack of confidence. I thought he should maybe go watch some Jaden Reed tape, who I think plays 2 feet taller than he really is, but you can tell he attacks it. Watson's got to use that size to his advantage, man. That is going to be the key or the lock, or the pick, the keys to lock, whatever the hell the saying is.
The lock, key picker Niner.
Yeah, the picker locker thinger. So, the offense needs to get him going. He's a threat when he's on. The problem is getting him on, and that's been the challenge this year.
Yeah, I think I totally agree with the wide receiver core, and I think for the most part, people are probably on the same page as us, right? Like, I think Jaden Reed is the most electric player on our team. Normally, I would say it's Aaron Jones, but I think he holds something that I don't think we've had in a long time, right? Just a very electric speed, electric quickness, a guy who can go up and get the ball. It's very Tyreek Hill to me. And I'm not trying to compare him to Tyreek Hill in all aspects, because it's not fair, because Tyreek is a different animal. But I see the comparisons to Tyreek in the sense of a couple things. One, obviously just size and height. Tyreek being shorter, Jaden Reed being a little bit smaller, the quickness, but Tyreek's same ability to go up in high point and get balls when he shouldn't is the same thing with Jaden Reed. I think Jaden Reed will attack a ball when he has no right to necessarily catch it, and he goes and gets it. I want to shout out Dontavian Wicks, who I think has been consistent all year with just making a couple plays. He's never been the 2. He's not going to be the 1, but he will be a very, very potent 3 and eventually could make it into that 2 point. And then also Romeo. He just, when he catches the ball, he goes up and he gets it. And it's the most textbook, beautiful catches that you ever see. I love the way that he goes out. He catches something. I'm going to get on the camera here. He catches it and he holds it out before he brings it in to show you, like, boom, caught it. It's mine. And then I bring it in.
No
Not
question.
like a boom caught. It's a, like, he just, that to me is, it's so, I don't even know what it is. It's textbooky. It's classic. It's vintage. It's confidence. It's all those things that he possesses when he catches a ball that just, I love it. It makes me.
I don't know how to phrase it, so I'm just going to try my best. You probably know what I'm getting at, but I feel like Reed and maybe Dobbs have like a want. Like, I want the ball. It's mine. I'm going to go get it. I'm entitled to it. I'm taking the ball. I'm going to snag it out of the air. Like, that's what I look for in wide receivers, like guys that are like greedy about it. Like, this is my space. I'm going up and getting this thing, and you're not stopping me. Like, we need guys like that, and I think you got a couple on the roster, and that's why I have some hope for Christian Watson, because he's got guys around him that do that already. That, I don't know, maybe you can't teach to him, maybe you can, I don't know, but he needs to start figuring out how to tap into that, because I think that that's going to be crucial for him. You're too big to not go up and attack the ball over. Most DBs are going to be 3, 4, 5 inches shorter than you. You're going to have a height advantage, and anybody that's lined up against you got to take advantage of that.
Yes, he's 6'3". I'm arguably 6'4", maybe 6'2", whatever you want to call it, but he's at least 6'3". He's got great length. The fact that every single one of his I'll call them, incompletions / interceptions, are always him falling back, waiting for the ball to come into his hands. And if anyone has ever played the game of football in their entire life, or watched 2 licks of football, or had a drunk uncle watching a game with him one time, you always go up and you always get the ball. You attack the ball at its high point and you go get it. That is what Christian Watson refuses to do. And also, I've heard a lot of kind of comical complaints about the last interception on the sideline, where people said it wasn't a good throw. Jordan Love underthrew it. It was whatever. That is exactly how Jordan Love should have thrown it. It's called a back shoulder. How many highlights of all the people that are watching, and you as well, how many times have you seen a receiver go
go up and get
a guy and bring it over? Instead, what did Watson do?
Fell backwards. It's not, he's trying to breadbasket every time.
Yeah, he wants to hope it gets through. And that's where I look at what I just said 5 minutes ago with Romeo, the guy who goes, grabs it, fingers it so toughly that he brings it back in. Why is he not at 6'3", at least challenging it? In that last throw, this is a game-winning type situation. You're telling me that you're not going to, I'll take the offensive pass interference. Go interfere with him. I don't care.
Yes.
But try to get that ball, and you didn't try to get that ball. And people want to say underthrown, all that. Believe me, Jordan Love has underthrown many balls. That ball was not underthrown. Now, could he have maybe put it up and over? Sure. But that's also coming from somebody he doesn't go up and get it. So why would I throw it up and over?
And here's the thing. He doesn't have the option to wait for perfect passes. You're not playing with vintage Aaron Rodgers anymore. You're not, he's not coming out of the tunnel.
It ain't North Dakota.
Hell no. So Jordan Love's going to have some passes that are going to be, maybe not perfect, but they're going to be in play for you to go try to make something happen with. And I think that's what people have a problem with. It's like, okay, maybe it wasn't a perfect pass, but you can definitely go up and try to make a play for it minimally. play a little bit of defense. If you know that, hey, this thing might get picked off, I'm going to swat that shit out of bounds.
Yes, that's a great
But
point.
he doesn't do any of that. He just falls backwards and thinks it's going to land in his mitts, but it's not. I don't know how many more times he's going to do that before he figures it out. Hey, this isn't going to work for me anymore. I thought he would have figured this stuff out in the offseason when they're all working together, but apparently he's got a lot more work to do with figuring out.
That's a super good point, man. Like, I didn't even think about that. Like, if you think it's underthrown and you're not there, why are you not trying to do anything to not make that interception? For the other team, So yeah, then it's like what, 4 out of like the 8 or 9 interceptions that Watson has, or Jordan
10 of his picks are 5 are targeting Watson. It's not a coincidence.
Not a coincidence. Not at all. And then you have Christian Watson's dad, who comes out and makes the statement of, what amazes me about this Green Bay Packers fan base, and some of you reporters, quite frankly, is the fact that this team, which is literally the youngest in the NFL, was not expected to even compete this season. I will give him that. That's a fair assumption.
Fine.
Yet have found a way to be in every game. I will also give him that.
Okay.
You are all about as bad as it gets, and I played with Philly and their schizophrenic fans. You're an idiot. Quite frankly, because that's not true. We're not even close to Philly. Sorry for wanting your son to do his fucking job. Quite frankly, you all were awful to Aaron Rodgers when he took over for Favre. You weren't even around. Shut up. And pretty much anytime he wasn't perfect on the field, sorry, we in Green Bay and Titletown expect perfection. You wanted Devontae Adams to be cut by his second season. Well, he was trash. And you somehow think you deserve better than what this team is. Hi, we're 13-time world champions. What are you talking about? Shut your mouth. You don't get the chance to talk about our team. Bro.
Yeah.
Because we drafted your son who can't catch a ball. Maybe you should spend less time talking to us, and maybe you should have taught your son how to go up and catch a freaking ball. High point.
Thank you.
He says, you all don't deserve a damn thing. Well, okay, neither do you, neither does your son. But to support the players who are out there playing their asses off if you choose to be fans. I get it. Oh, and he also said #FairWeatherFans. Listen, man, I get it, right? I would defend my son as well. But you don't have any right to come at us and start bringing up things of the past in our organization when you weren't there in our organization. You don't know what we've gone through, what we're doing. And I'm not saying that like, oh, pity us. Not at all. We are absolutely spoiled with riches. But what I don't understand is like, it comes off to me as like LeVar Big Baller brand type bad stuff.
Seriously.
Like, you're not on the team. Shut up. Like, if I'm sorry, but and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe in the actual situation, I would do this differently. But I would say that if this was my son, right? If this was like Ethan and this was happening to Ethan, I sure as hell wouldn't jump on the next press junket to blast the team. I would be calling my son privately and saying, hey, what do we need to do? How do we figure this out? What's going on in your head? How can we get this fixed? I wouldn't be going out there and blasting the team, because what that does is now you're basically just going to get traded. And guess what? You're going to get traded and you're going to go to a crappier team and you're going to be a crappier receiver.
Yeah. And to that whole rant of his, I want to say, welcome to Twitter, buddy. It's nothing but trolls. It's not real life. Everybody on there, like it's 50% fake. It's 40% trolls and 10% real people. So if you go on there and you're thinking, well, man, Packer, I'm going to base my entire opinion based on dudes on Twitter. Like, I can't help you then, man. That's not indicative of what the fan base. Yes, people are critical of your son. He's a public figure that plays for a prominent football team in the NFL. Like, he's going to be subject to, and he's underperforming. Like, I think it's okay to admit that. Are people maybe being assholes and going too far? I'm sure they are, but you just got to ignore those people because they, again, don't speak for the Packer fan base as a whole. I don't think that's so at all.
I've been a Packer fan from the womb to the tomb, baby. I've always said that.
Yeah.
And listen, I hate all of the Packer fans on Twitter. It's why I don't go on. It's why I don't go on Twitter ever, because I think all of the people that are on Twitter, for the most part, that are Packer fans are terrible. They don't know what they're talking about. They're a bunch of people that have become fans since 2010. They're not people that have been through most of the situations that we've been through. And that's why I joke about them all the time. But that being said, I mean, what are you doing? Like, why are you playing into it? Why are you even talking about it? Why are you now you're putting that on your son, right? Because now he has to see that, probably defend it, probably talk about it. It just doesn't make any sense to me why a dad would want to do that and call attention to something like that. That just seems so stupid. But it
There
is what
was
it
a
is. You're right. He is a public figure. You know, most of us have no problem bashing our president, whether it's Trump or Biden or whoever, because they're a
it's
figure.
way
And
worse.
we're judging them. We're judging them on their job, right? You know, we have no problem bashing our bosses or other people because we just think we earn that right, and we don't earn that right. So, I mean, yes, do I maybe say some critical things about
And
Christian Watson? Sure. But all I've ever said about Christian Watson was he ain't it, because I've never thought he's that good. I've never thought
yeah,
he's the
it's
guy.
true.
And I still don't believe that. And I have to be won over by that. I've never said he sucks. I've never said I hate him. His family sucks. None of that crap. But
It's
I just wish that it like what point were you trying to make by
I
coming
don't
with that?
I believe firmly in a saying that goes, never pass up on a good opportunity to say nothing. And I think that just
Absolutely.
applies to that right then and there. Just shut up. Don't do anything. It's not going to add any value. You have an opinion on it, that's fine, but you're just subjecting yourself to, to worse and worse, people coming after you. Because once they smell blood in the water, Twitter, people will come circling and they're going to come find you and they're going to try to drag you down to hell with them. So be strong on there. I just would stay out of the reply game. It's not worth it whatsoever. Just move on, move forward.
Yeah, absolute joke. But let's talk a little bit about the defense, because I think offensively we probably covered most of what we want to do. I think one other thing would be offensively.
DeGuara, well, he's special teams, but
yeah.
I mean, we could talk.
It's
I think
time.
he's still in
not
his
there.
stance in Heinz Field. I don't think he ever actually moved. But here's the other thing. It begs the question.
He doesn't have the leash anymore, right? You've been there now for 3 years, so like it's got to be figured out. He's
Dude,
one of those guys, though. He's a prime example. I'll guarantee you this, that he will be a guy that goes to a different team and wildly successful.
Yeah, of course,
not wildly successful,
well,
but
he'll find
will be
something.
a successful player.
Yeah. I just would love to know, when you saw, there's 22 people on the field and you saw 21 other people moving, what was your thought at that moment? Was it just stand there and watch? Because that's sort of what happened. Literally, if he put his arm out and just made the guy flinch for a second, that does not get blocked. And I tell you, the second it got blocked, I'm looked over at my dad, I'm like, that will come back to haunt us. And no shit, that last drive could have had a field goal to tie it up to go to OT. Nope. Had to settle for trying to get the touchdown.
How ironic. We've had a couple games now this season where
multiple
that early field goal
Falcons,
that was a big one. We've had a lot of situations where it's been very close, which is inspiring, maybe. I don't know if that's the right word.
Hey, they're in the games.
We're never cool. And that's where Watson's dad did make some sense, is we haven't always been completely blown out. It does make some sense. We're close enough. We've had a couple mistakes, a lot of penalties. It's kind of like the Vikings from 2 years ago, where they lost every game. It felt like by 7 or less points.
Yeah,
it was they just needed to
They won all the coin flip games. Yeah, they did it last year. They're not having it happen this year. I feel like there's maybe another team that's doing that. The Steelers are winning all these games despite the fact that they're not. Put Joe Barry in the fryer. Let's do it, because
let's do it.
I don't know if you watched Matt LaFleur's presser yesterday about the whole kerfuffle about defensive ends and shit like that. And it's
two down linemen.
It's I don't care how you define it. You still have two down linemen in an obvious run situation, and you can go ahead and say, well, Lucas Van Ness and Rashawn Gary are bigger than your usual edge guys. Okay, well, you still didn't stop the run. I mean, it didn't work out at all, and it hasn't worked out for 3 years. To me, it's you need to put big guys in there. Big guys and big guys is what you need to do. But Joe Barry, what else can you say? The hard thing is, and we talked about the game of the show, it's there was some good stuff that happened. They were getting some stops and forcing some punts, but the game plan in the first half was, what was that? The way you play the Steelers, you make Kenny Pickett have to beat you. They were fine sitting back, just, whoa, he's not going to be this deep, but will allow us to run on him. So again, another Joe Barry game plan where you're left scratching your head going, what exactly were you looking at, and what exactly were you trying to do?
Yeah, I mean, it blows my mind that in so many obvious running situations, we put two down linemen, or we line up in some bizarro defense. Yet every time we're in a run for a situation where we clearly know they're going to give it to AJ Dillon, the box is stacked
Yeah.
and we get nothing. Like, it's not that like, and that's where I come back to, like, is LaFleur just drastically overthinking everything?
I,
Like, is he trying to like out chess the out chessman by playing chess? Like, I don't get it, because like it shouldn't be that difficult to just say, okay, clear running situation, put bodies in, and then we'll just see what happens. Like, as opposed to like, let's put two down linemen in and two, outside linebackers who maybe you can make the argument they're bigger than DNs. I don't think I can. Not when I look at DNs
like, yeah,
around the league. Like, it can't be pretty. It's got to be like, maybe they're taller, but I don't know if they're bigger.
well, like, some people's edge rushers are like, 270 and they run a 4.3. It's like, well, okay, our guys are not 270, but, lighter.
Well,
Like,
you
we
could
have guys.
put a Preston Smith in as a DN, and I would
Yeah.
buy it.
Yeah, exactly. And but LaFleur a weeks ago made the famous comment about, well, you can't keep doing the same thing and expect different results. Like, but that's exactly what this scenario is. He keeps having two down linemen and two stand-up guys on run plays, and they get steamrolled. It's like, what are you talking about? And why'd you pick that to have a problem with? Like, really, that's the way you have more of a problem with how Jason Wilde categorized your outside linebackers than you do that the fact that your run defense is almost non-existent at this point. So I don't know what LaFleur, he's probably going home at night going, I can't believe I brought him back. He's going to have to deal with it in the offseason. So, and we said it all offseason and going into the year, this is a referendum on him and hiring coaches. And if you want to get into it, we can talk about Rich Bisaccia. I don't know how much, the special teams, remove a few Keyshawn Nixon returns, and what has they done? They still have penalties, they're still getting stuff blocked, they're still missing kicks, all this stuff. Like, nothing really has changed. So it calls into question LaFleur's competency in hiring positional coaches. And that's going to be a thing in the offseason, because there's definitely going to be some changes, and he's going to have to nail it, assuming he's the guy that they let him stick around.
Yeah,
they're going to, but
yeah, exactly.
Not
the offensive blocking on field goals is terrible. The apparent like undeniable freedom that Keyshawn Nixon has to return the ball is mind-boggling when he's returning it 9 yards deep
every time.
Every time. And listen, I like him. I do think he's electric. We've obviously seen last year he can do it. And I know that not every return is going to be a great return, right? It takes 4 or 5 shitty ones and then you break one. I get it. We grew up in a world, unfortunately, whoever's watching and people like us, we grew up in a world of Hester and Dante Hall, where it seemed a lot more obvious and seemed a lot more, cohesive and normal. I don't know if those are the words I'm looking for, but it's just not the same anymore, right? Keyshawn Nixon returning a couple things last year was like the first time it's happened in, God, feels like 90 years,
basically,
since Desmond Howard. So I get like their idea of like, okay, maybe we just let him run because he has shown it. I think he's earned that right. However, I don't know how long that lasts, right? Like, I think we have to start considering pulling that back coming into like the later months of the year.
That's what I thought, because it's not like, to me, it's like, okay, if you have Aaron Rodgers trotting out there and like any given play, the guy can just rip off a 40-yard pass, fine, go ahead. I don't care if you start the ball from the 15 or the 20-yard line, but not with Jordan Love. They need every yard they can get. They don't need to be starting their drives at the 12-yard line because Keyshawn Nixon tried to take one out. He's earned the right to do a couple, but the thing is, I think the data would probably show that more often than not, he's not getting back to the 25. And on the flip side, I'd be curious to know, like, what is the strategy, like kicking short? Like, to me, it's like, why aren't we just kicking the ball out of the back of the end zone and even allowing anybody to try to bring the ball back on us?
That game.
I don't understand that whatsoever.
Yeah, it's super bizarro. And special teams. It's just ridiculous. I don't want to spend a lot of time on special teams because
no need to.
But I do want to point out a couple other things on defense, which I thought were really cool. And I guess I kind of noticed during the game watching it, but I feel like now that I've looked at the box score a little bit closer, this is really cool. And I'm actually excited about it. 3 leading tacklers. Can you name the 3 leading tacklers from the game on Sunday?
I'm gonna go 1 McDuffie.
Okay.
2 Ford and 3 Valentine.
2 out of 3 ain't bad, my boy.
Okay, I'll take it.
Okay, so Rudy Ford and Isaiah McDuffie both had 10 total tackles.
Okay.
So great call out on that. The next 2, which had 8, so I'll say the 2 because they're tied. TJ Slayton and Jonathan Owens.
Okay. Owens.
So I like to see, my point being is that I like to see that with some injuries on defense, we had some guys really step up.
Yeah.
Some guys like Johnny Owens, TJ Slayton, obviously with Clark, and Wyatt, Rudy Ford, obviously playing really well this year. He's quietly playing pretty damn well.
I agree.
And then Isaiah McDuffie, who just he's just a baller to me. Like he's just that guy. He's that guy that pisses you off at practice.
Yeah,
because he just
he's always there.
Rudy. It's Rudy. It's the guy that's like stop fucking practicing so hard, man. Like you're killing us out here. But that
make me look bad.
Isaiah McDuffie, like just that guy that just an endless motor, and just a guy that grinds it out. And I like that, and I appreciate that. And so I'm hoping that, with some of these situations, these games that we have, we start to weed out and maybe see some of these guys who are being like just hardworking dudes that we can bring in, keep into this locker room and keep into this roster, right? Because guys like Rudy Ford, McDuffie, probably Owens too, I don't know, are guys that I feel like you got to have in your locker room because they're not big guys. They're not flashy guys. They're not look at me guys. They're not check out my Gucci shoes kind of guys. Maybe they wear Gucci shoes. I don't know, but they're guys
check them out.
Yeah, they're just guys to me that are just true blood football players. And I think if you start to get rid of guys like that too, that's a big problem. But ultimately, it's exciting to see guys that can step up when other people are out.
Yeah, and I'll extend that to I thought Valentine and Ballantyne, the 2 Tynes, looked really good, and I really like the confidence and the juice that Valentine brings to the team. He's got that kind of like that rookie swag to him. He knows he's good. He wants to prove himself. He's eager to go out and match up against the other team's top receiver. He's not afraid. He doesn't back down. I mean, he did a little jaw jacking with George Pickens, who's a Class A shit talker. So it's like that stuff matters, man. And you want guys like that in your team. And I've liked McDuffie. Like I've liked what he's done in the preseason when we've been able to see him. And this year when he's been on the field in relief for either Walker or Campbell, like I thought he's been pretty damn good. And frankly, if we were to lose, Campbell maybe in free agency or something, like I feel okay that they have McDuffie on the roster to step in. But to answer Mike's question, are fans souring on LaFleur? I don't know. I mean, I want to maybe a little bit. I think people are questioning his competency with his coaching hires. People are really dogging him for bringing back Joe Barry because what we're seeing right now is basically what everybody predicted we would see, and he brought it back anyway. So I think that's a fair criticism of him. And then 2, I think that the play calling and maybe just the general organization of the offense, a lot of penalties, a lot of slop. It is a really young group, so there's going to be a lot of challenges with that. But that's what you're paid the big bucks for, is to get those guys up to speed. And you believed enough in them to roll with that squad and not bring in veterans. So I think in that case, people are a little bit, on LaFleur's ass about it, but also I think people are as the season goes, and it's easy to get hyper emotional when you lose 4 in a row. But when we won one, looked a little bit better in this one, you kind of go, okay, maybe it's starting to come together a little bit. So I don't want to say people are like just out on him. I mean, there's definitely people that want to fire him and bring somebody else in, but that's always the case. But to me, like there's some legitimate criticisms of him, but I think he's earned the right to see it out another year here at minimally, at least probably more than that.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think there's a lot of questions. I think there's a lot of things about him that I struggle with. And I think just the hierarchy of whatever this coaching staff is, I don't think it's right. I think there's some weirdness things going on. The Joe Barry there, Basasha as like the assistant coach, not having a true offensive coordinator, having an offensive lineman as the offensive coordinator. I think there's there's a lot of things it feels sloppy to me. And then I also feel like, you know, I think he's starting to feel the pressure, right? I think at the press conference was the first time I've seen him kind of not himself in the sense of like a little agitated.
Yeah, he's getting a little pissed off this year.
A little like, this is not as fun as I thought it was going to be,
And
which guess what? It's not going to
remember,
always be fun.
They didn't play well last year. It wasn't like we were 13-3 last year. They were butt cheeks through 3/4 of the year until the end when they won that little streak. So it's like he's definitely feeling the heat, and I think the reporters are starting to turn up a little more. The criticism of GB beat writers is they're a little bit too soft, but I feel like they've been kind of getting under his skin a little bit more this year, poking at him. So and good, because I think that he deserves to be questioned in that sense.
Absolutely. And I think realistically, like, if he's the guy, right? If he's a legitimate coach, everything that we want him to be for a head coach with the Green Bay Packers, I think he absolutely needs to be able to answer the questions, be able to take the criticism, and rise above it, right? Because you're going to be this is the NFL. It's absolutely psychotic with criticism. If you're not able to handle it and you're not able to rise above it, you're not meant to be a head coach. And I think he kind of came in. Things were really nice. They were comfy. They were cozy. You switched a couple murals in some hallways.
Had an MVP QB.
You went 13-3, 3 seasons in a row. Everything was hunky dory. That's not the real world. And now things are coming back down. So I want to see, for me personally, because I'm struggling a little bit with him and what his choices are. I need to see LaFleur come out and can command his team. And then also be confident in what his decisions are and how he runs the team. Now, whether it's keeping Joe Barry or it's play calling or whatever it is, I need to know that you are confident, because when he talked the other day or today, it didn't feel confident. Like him answering the question about the 2 down linemen, it looked like a kid who got caught with weed in his back pocket, and he was trying to find which friend he was going to say he was holding it for.
Dude, so true. And I think he's starting to feel the clamps come down on him a little bit. I think we're going to find a lot about this team, how much influence he has and how much he's going to pull them through, because the next 3 games are a gauntlet. You got the Chargers, you got the Chiefs, and you got the Lions, and not in that exact order, but that's 3 basically playoff teams. You got the defending Super Bowl champions. You got the team that's probably going to win the NFC North. So it's like you got 3 really difficult teams coming into your schedule. So I think we're going to find a lot about Matt LaFleur. And my biggest fear is, if you look at the last 4, they play a bunch of shit teams. They play like the Giants, the Panthers, the Bears, the Buccaneers, all winnable games. I think I don't want to say the worst thing, but my biggest fear is that they get blitzed at these next 3 games, and then they win like 3 or 4 or 4 or 4 at the end of the year. They end up with 7 wins, and you go, hey, 7 wins, that's not so bad. They won 4 in a row at the end of the year. We're bringing the band back together next year. We gotta keep this thing humming. Yeah. That's my biggest fear. And so I hope that even if they do that he's got the foresight and the understanding, I cannot roll this back next year as is. There's no way we can do that. So I hope not, but you never know.
I do think that this year has been the first year that, you could say shit's hit the fan a little bit for him. And I do think that in maybe years prior, he's had kind of that leash where he's been able to kind of be like, well, we're going to run it back and be okay. I think this year the criticisms come, the boos have come. He's seen enough to realize that even if you do finish those 4 games and you say you win all 4, it's just too hairy. You're not going to come in the next year and just say everything's going to be okay again. We're going to figure it out.
Because he'll be coaching for his job at that point. You really want to hang your hat on Joe Barry again? I mean, you did this year and that didn't work out for you. There's no way you can do it again.
Yeah, and I'll give you absolutely, Ryan. Like there has been a lot of injuries. I actually made this comment to my wife on Sunday, and she was like, "Really?" And maybe I'm being stupid when I think this, but when you're on a team that seems to be kind of digressing a little bit, it's easier for sometimes players to just say, my hammy's a little rough. I'm going to call it. I'm not going to play tonight. Whereas if you're on a team that's winning and it's hot and it's fun, guys are more willing to play through injuries. And I'm not saying that this team is actively not playing or withholding their play for injuries, but I would definitely say that guys who are maybe having some nagging, lingering injuries are going to be more apt to sit on the sideline than they are to be involved. Because let's be honest, when you're winning and everything's good, you want to be a part of it.
You want to be out
no
there,
matter what happens.
Yeah.
This is not something that I think players are like, oh my God, I can't wait to get out there and go 3 and out. Like I just, so like, and that's, again, I'm not to say exactly what you said. It's not an excuse by any means, but I do think that there is a little bit of that. Regardless of that feeling, there are actually legitimately also very documented real injuries. And I think between injuries, questionable coaching, first-time quarterback, a lot of things. There's a lot of factors in this.
You can't tell the story of the 2023 Packers without bringing up the injuries. And I think it was probably the biggest driving factor in their derailment early in the year. They really needed to stay healthy to get through that first, quarter, 2 quarters of the season where you were going to probably go through the most amount of growing pains and having to figure shit out on the fly. You needed your guys out there and did. And consider this, for a team that's very, very young, very few proven veterans. For the injuries we did suffer, they were all to the veterans. Aaron Jones, Devondre Campbell, Jair Alexander, Darnell Savage, Jenkins, go down the line. All these major injuries, guys that missed multiple games, they were like major contributors or guys that we needed, veteran guys we needed to have out there just to kind of keep the wheels turning. And literally all the injuries were to those guys. So, to Ryan's comment or to point, I mean, it is true. It has absolutely impacted the viability of this team. And in years past, when you have a much more experienced team, you have a lot more veteran players, a lot across the roster, better coaching group, you can overcome a lot of those injuries. But when you're as young as you are and you have as little margin of error as you do, just 2 or 3 of those guys missing time is a killer. So yeah, I think that's played a massive role. And I think part of the reason why LaFleur, I'm not going to say he doesn't get a pass, but part of the reason why he definitely, should see next year is because of that. But that said, he's definitely going to come in the next year going, I got to win. You got to make the playoffs. You got to take a noticeable step forward, because if you come out and you're treading water and you just kind of look like you're sputtering still, you're cooked, so, and I don't want that for him, but that's just the reality.
So to touch on Iowa Joe's comment here, did you see
what was that? Is it on November 8th? Remember the day?
Yeah, November 8th, like 2024, I think was his tweet. That's it. It said something like remember the day or something like that. Super cryptic, super weird. You got to imagine that, the puppet master Aaron Rodgers is behind that, the last dance kind of bullshit. So yeah, I'm interested to see. I don't know. I mean, maybe that's his trade date to the Jets. I don't know. Maybe that's his, I don't know. I couldn't give you the answer on that, but frankly, I mean, I've already dismissed him from the team in my brain. He's clearly ready to move on and probably follow his butt buddy in New York, and that's going to be just fine. So, they can all run that back and go to the Jets and say they're they could win the Super Bowl with the New York Jets. Good for you.
Go ahead.
People are so excited.
Go play in the turf.
Yeah, and enjoy your Jets Super Bowl. It'll be so great. Like, I'm sorry, but like I come from an era where that doesn't matter to me, right? Like I will never remember Peyton Manning as a Denver Bronco winning a Super Bowl.
He's a
maybe the people in Denver do. Maybe I'm just completely biased on it. But like to me, Aaron Rodgers wins the Jets Super Bowl. That's great. Whatever. New York people love it. I'm sure there'll be a bunch of media people who love it.
It's like
I don't think people are ever going to think about it. Like I think when you play for a team for as long as you did, like Aaron Rodgers, in 20 years, no one's going to remember that.
It's like Tom Brady's Super Bowl with the Bucs. It's like, okay, it was fun in the moment. Oh, hey, he went to the Buccaneers and he won, and but it's like now it's like, but nobody cares. Nobody cares anymore.
Start a sentence with Tampa Bay Super Bowl champion Tom Brady.
Tom Brady, no, he's a Patriot.
It's going to be the Patriot. He won Patriot Super Bowl after like no one's going to start a conversation and say, but New York Jets quarterback Aaron Rodgers. No, it's always going to be he was a Green Bay Packer. He won a Super Bowl, set every record in the book. So I find that stupid and ridiculous. All right, 15 minutes. We got the Chargers coming up this week. I will be going with Ethan. Be my last game probably of the season. Should be relatively decent out. I don't know. I think the week is supposed to be nice. I don't know how the Sunday will be.
Let me look.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, the Chargers are an interesting one. I mean, they're not nearly as interesting as the Bills right now, who I find just fascinating that they're as terrible as they are because they are such a powerhouse of a team and have been for the last couple of years. And for the Bills to just completely drop off blows my mind. That's a whole nother topic. But I mean, the Chargers, there's so much talent on that team. I mean, they are always my favorite team on paper, usually with just players. They draft every guy that I love going into the draft ends up on the Chargers at some point or another. So, you know, I'm not going to get too far into it. I'll let you say what you want to say, throw out your prediction, and then I'll toss mine out, and then we'll close it up.
Well, the Chargers, man, are always such a curious team to follow because I feel like they're just like serial underachievers. They just never live up to their own. Go ahead. He won one. No, I thought he won one. Yeah, one for Brady. But yeah, this is an interesting game because the Chargers are a 4-win team. Like the record wise does not look good, but they have a lot of firepower. On both sides of the ball, which is why they're such a head scratcher. They should be way better than they are, and they never are. It's always coaching, whatever the case is. It feels like Justin Herbert's just going to be Phillip Rivers 2.0, just, you know, throw for a bazillion yards, but never have any success in the postseason. But, you know, looking at this, it's a test for the Packers, and this year's about tests and growth and figuring out where we're at. So, you know, this is probably, and correct me if I'm wrong, I would garner the best passing attack that they've gone against this year. I'm trying to think if maybe they've gone against a more potent passing offense. I don't think so. And it's going to get erased 2 weeks later when they play the Chiefs at home. So, but you know, Herbert's, you know, he's got a cannon, man. He's going to test that secondary. And if they don't have Jair Alexander back, you know, hey, you know, trial by fire for the two, for Valentine and Ballantyne and, you know, in the safety group, because they're going to press him a bit. And then of course, on the ground, you got Austin Eckler, man. I mean, you know, if you're letting up 200 yards to Jaylen Warren and Najee Harris, you know, good luck against Austin Eckler. He'll get 200 yards himself if you're not careful. So they're going to have to be on their details. They're going to have to do something, because no matter what you do with the Chargers, they're going to be able to strike you, whether it's on the ground or whether it's in the air. So Joe Barry is going to have one hell of a game plan coming in here, because and frankly, I think he's just going to do what he always does. Just put the shell on and go, we're not going to let you beat you deep, and you're just going to have to kill us 10 yards at a time, which is exactly what they'll do. They'll kill us 10 yards at a time and go on the field and get their touchdowns. On the other side of the ball, I don't know what the health looks like for the Chargers. And I feel like they're always kind of banged up on the defensive side, but you know, you got Khalil Mack and you got, you know, Joey Bosa coming off the edges. I mean, that's a pretty formidable duo. I don't care how old, you know, Khalil Mack is, you know, like a 5-sack game, you know, some other week or whatever it was. And in the offense, you know, though they took some steps against the Steelers, you know, this is going to be a really difficult defense to try to get the ball moved on. So, you know, I don't feel great about the prospects of the Packers winning the game. I got to be honest about it, you know, but I think that, you know, in the sense of trying to figure out, like, well, how prepared can they look? Because any given Sunday, right? How prepared are they going to look? Like, I'm sure they read the press. I'm sure they hear the noise about how, man, this team stinks. They can't stop anybody. They're not going to be able to do this. You think at some point maybe they would take that to heart and they'd put their foot in the ground and beat one of these teams. And maybe it's this week, but I just feel like, you know, the power that the Chargers have will be a little bit too much for the Packers. Although I think we'll hang around them. The Packers have been kind of scrappy in that sense. So, you know, that's kind of how I'm looking at it, Fred. Just a little bit nervy that they can handle that gas that the Chargers can turn on.
Prediction?
Okay. We almost got to 20. I thought we were gonna get to 20. I really wanted us to hit the 20-point mark this week, so I can start picking us to score 20 points again. They're gonna have to score 20 points minimally to beat the Chargers. I don't know that they have it in them. I still just want to pick them because I love the Packers, and Sanjay's not here, and I'm not gonna pick him to lose. He's not here. I can't do that. There's no way.
Don't do
I
that.
can't give him.
I can't so mad.
Satisfaction. How about this angle? It's gonna be like lower 40s. You got the Chargers coming in from San Diego into chilly Green Bay. Is it a noon game or is it 3:00? I forget. Do you remember?
It is a nooner.
Okay, a noon game coming from the West Coast. So normally it's 10 a.m. out there at that time. So maybe there's they're just a little stagnant. They're just a little one step behind, a little softer than they normally would have been, and the Packers catch them maybe on a down day. So let's go 27-24 Packers. A 20 burger.
Drop that 20 burger.
That's where we're at. A 20.
Sorry, so one more time, what was the score?
I said 27-24.
Okay, that's probably super fair. Okay, so I will say
LA, my bad, not San Diego.
It's San Diego. So I will say one thing, right? So you talk about our defense a little bit, and all season, outside of, I believe, let me just check here, the Lions game, we've not let up more than 25 points against any team, which is in today's NFL.
Pretty good.
Today's NFL, it's pretty impressive, right?
Yes.
But I don't think it's ever been a game where we've had to say the defense effed us, right? It's the offense hasn't shown up. So that's just my one point. The other point I want to make is, I do truly feel that it's going to be a game where Austin Eckler runs for 220, which just then opens up the passing game. Now, if I'm the Chargers coach, who I don't even know who the Chargers coach is, he still? Have they not fired?
Somehow he's still there. I don't know how.
Okay, unbelievable. But if I'm him, right? If I'm smart him, I'm running the ball until you chalk it deep on us and kill us. He could be an idiot and just try to throw the ball on us all day, and then we could probably suffice. That being said, the linebacking core of the Chargers, Joey Bosa, which outside linebacker / end, Khalil Mack. You mentioned both of those guys, Hall of Fame guys, right?
Yep.
Let's move on the inside. Let's move on the inside a little bit. Kenneth Murray Jr. from Oklahoma, solid player, right? Not a Hall of Famer, but very solid.
Good. Yep.
The other one would be Eric Kendricks. I don't know if you've heard of him. Played for the Vikings for a little while.
That's where he went, huh?
So that's a really good linebacking, like a really good linebacking core mixed with some youth, some talent, some young, some old, whatever. And then you move into like the fact that we didn't even talk about one of the corners, Asante Samuel Jr., who I think is fantastic.
Derwin James.
There's another guy. Yeah, what's his name? Derwin James. Pretty solid.
How does his team have 4 wins? Please, what is going on?
So that's that situation. So that's really cool. So I don't feel confident 100% in our offense going against that defense, because I think the one thing, and I don't want to be an idiot. Iowa Joe, help me out real quick here. Who's the defensive coordinator for LA, San Diego? But I don't feel confident in our offense going against that defense. I just feel like there's way too much talent. It could be an absolute kind of poop show for us when it comes to, allowing Jordan Love to have time. I thought that he had a ton of time against Pittsburgh. I thought they did great. I don't know if that happens again against the Chargers, because I think there's so much talent with Mac just pointing his ears back, Bosa. And then you
can't get in third and longs. You got to be good on first.
You have guys like Kendricks and Murray who are such good in the coverage field. So it's like, gosh, it's super, super scary. I'm not going to pick them to lose, because I also
we don't do that
without Sanjay, and I'm not a piece of crap. But Staley is also the defensive.
Yeah, he's a D coordinator. He's a D. Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay, interesting. I did not know that. Thank you, Iowa Joe, for always being so not only handsome and cool, but a great reference for us.
Far smarter than us.
So I'm going to go very low too, because I don't see how this gets any deeper than it could, but I'm going to play it really close to chest, and I'm going to say we win 21-20.
Nice.
And that would be on a good side. So, like I said, I'll be there with Ethan. We'll definitely be cheering. I'll definitely be into it. Throwback weekend. I believe we're wearing like the dark greens again, which I love that jersey. It's one of my favorite jerseys. So I'm okay with that. Should be a beautiful day by all counts. It's Lambeau Field. It's beautiful November. The weather's great. You got
football
a
weather, baby.
Team come in, kick some ass, and like let's get going here. Like, you know, and honestly, I think we've all said it throughout the year, and I'm going to say it again. I'm okay with us losing this game. Make it competitive. Show me progression, and I'm okay. Like, I never walked into this season thinking we'll be 10-6 or whatever. I mean, I know we joked about it early on the season, but I knew it was going to be a rough season. I knew we were going to end up with definitely under single or double-digit wins. I just want to see us always within like a touchdown of the other team, and I think I can feel good with that. So if I can get to like 21-10, or if we lose 20-23, I'm okay with it.
Just be competitive. That's the whole thing, and give us some hope. You know, just don't come out and get your asses slapped by them, because that would be depressing. Because the next two games after that won't be any better.
Yeah. All right. So that's all we got for today. Charger game on Sunday. We'll be back on Tuesday to talk about that. I think Matt, you're out of here for that Tuesday game.
Sanjay will be back.
But Sanjay will be back. I should be back as well. And we'll get into hopefully what will be a win or a very nice close loss. How sad that we're like celebrating just close losses now. Where did we go? What the hell happened to this?
Never thought we'd be here. But hey,
this is ridiculous. We're here. Hey, we're here. Look at us. Who would have thought?
Yeah, who would have thought? Not me. Not me.
Look at us. Not me. I look around here and I'm like, dude, all this championships. And we ain't even here no more. Yeah. Hey, and you know what? If we end up sucking, it's okay, because UW hockey is number one, and that's what we're all excited about. But hey, listen, we thank you guys for joining us. Thank you for coming on the show. It was a slow start, but you guys came in. We appreciate your comments. Iowa Joe, Ryan, Neil, True Packers North, all you guys. We love you guys. We thank you. And hopefully we can be back next week talking about a win and maybe some progression within the Packer offense and or defense. And maybe, I don't know, maybe we fire Joe Barry and we can have a really great moment and talk about that too. But if
Bills
not,
can do it, we can do it.
Yeah, Bills can do it. We can do it. Appreciate you guys listening to us. Be safe. Enjoy the weekend. Enjoy the Packers' hopeful win. And we'll talk to you. Hold on, I got situated here. Usually this is Sanjay. And with that being said, I'm Fred. You're Matt. Packers better win. Let's go, Pack. Go, baby.
Go, Pack. Go.